So I've been looking at some different parties in the UK because obviously we in the UK things look like they're going more towards the right-leaning politics, and right now we've got Labour in charge, but Labour definitely going more towards the right. Obviously, are going more towards the right. And so it's got me thinking, like, I want to see what other parties doing. And I've looked at Reform. I did a video on Reform. I've looked at no, I was going to say Labour. I haven't looked at Labour. I looked at the Your Party because that's a new party, and I did a video about that. But what I'd like to do today is like to look at the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats, because right now at the moment of making this video, they're actually doing a party conference, and something came in the news the other day about something that happened at that party conference, and I'm going to tell you now what that is. So I'm going to share an article because I got it from this article. Let me just share the article. Was this article? So Lib Dems reject bid to prevent trans women standing in roles reserved for women. So obviously, when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," because, as you know, well, you should know, we've had the High Court ruling in the UK, and they said, but only biological, when it comes to the word woman or anything to do with women, it's only for biological women. So trans women basically got shut out of everything. And the Liberal Democrats say that they're on the side of trans people, that trans women are women. And so, of course, you're like, great, you support us. So I wanted to make sure, I wanted to check, is that true? And I did a little bit digging as well. I took this article and then I did a little bit more digging. So this is what I've got. I'm going to tell you basically what's going on. So here we go. Let's put it on a big screen. I don't think we just want this. Let's see some more pictures. Any more pictures on this article? Not really. We don't want to be watching this all the time. Let's have a look. Let's go on the big screen. And I'll just talk to you guys and let you know what's going on. If I can get back onto my main screen, which I can't. Here we go. Let me just get the screen a bit bigger. Okay, there we go. You can see me now. So yeah, so what is all this about? So the Liberal Democrats, UK party, obviously, their stance on trans rights, internally, party rules, and externally, policies. Okay, especially after the UK Supreme Court's ruling that Equality Act terms sex, man and woman mean only for biological sex. Okay. So what's happened? So what's happened anyway? At the 2025 annual conference in Bournemouth, members blocked an attempt to exclude trans women from roles and quotas reserved for women, keeping the party's self-identification rule in place. Reporting described a clear majority for moving to next business, i.e., no debate vote. Yeah, so basically there was I don't know who exactly was it, but there was some people in the party or in the party saying that they wanted to block trans women from women-only roles, and because the party said, "Hey, we support trans people," they said, "No, we're not debating on this. Trans women are women, trans men are men, and that's it. So there's no debate on this." The Lib Dem. So okay, what happened then? So what the leaders said in media rounds around the conference. So Ed Davis continued to resist gender critical framing and has repeatedly aligned with the view that trans women are women. He refused pressure to adopt biological sex talking points in hosting interviews, whilst saying the party abides by the law. So even though the law in the UK, this is the thing. So we got Ed Davis, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. Even though we know in law at the moment, hopefully it'll change eventually, change back to allowing trans women the rights again. We know in law that they say biological sex, but the party is firm on respecting trans people. So regardless of the law, for this party, they will respect trans people in their party, which is amazing. I actually something I'm really happy to see, because I'm looking for parties that support trans people, and it shows here that the Liberal Democrats definitely stay true to that, regardless of outside factors. So what else? The party's official transphobia code of conduct states trans people are entitled to the same rights as everyone else. Discrimination on the basis of gender identity is incompatible with party values. Yes, good, really good. What else did they say? LGBT plus liberal Democrats criticized the Supreme Court ruling, warning biological sex only definition risks rolling back protections. They reaffirm trans women are women, trans men are men. So they feel that the court ruling is wrong, and they say that if we abide by the court ruling, we're going to make trans people unsafe. We're going to put them in a terrible situation. So why does this matter? So let's see. Internal democracy as a limited. Well, let me just see. Let me test. The conference decision signals. Okay, it signals that the Liberal Democrats will not mirror the Supreme Court's biological sex approach. Instead, they will focus on the party. They will do the party's approach. They're maintaining self-ID for internal quotas, which keeps trans women eligible for women's places. That sets them apart in today's UK political climate. Yes, very much so. We looked at before. I mean, check my other videos out if you haven't seen them. But I looked at Reform, and Reform was saying, my headphones just gone off. We looked at Reform, and Reform definitely have got policies in place to actually take away more rights from trans people. So I don't feel Reform is a good option, and I don't think most people feel like Reform is a very good option at the moment, because it looks like if they get in, they're gonna destroy the economy by the looks of it, with what their new policies on sending even legal migrants are going to get kicked out of the country, which is I don't see how that's going to help the economy. But anyway, that's a totally different subject. What else have we got? Oh yeah, and by the way, I also talked about your party as well. And the problem with your party is you've got Jeremy Corbyn, who's pro LGBTQ plus rights and trans rights. You've got Zara Satana, who is pro trans rights and LGBTQ rights. But then the other, I think there's another 4 or 5 men, and they all basically are more conservative, which seems strange to be on the left. And they don't want. Well, they've not said it, but they're very vague on trans rights, and I think they're not going to support. What have I got here? The practical impact for trans members and candidates. Keeping self-ID in party rules protects access to leadership pathways and signals to potential candidates that they'll be treated according to their lived gender inside the party, even as the legal environment moves the other way. So basically, I'm saying that right now I see a big tick next to the Liberal Democrats. Now, if you have a different opinion, feel free to let me know. But I'm seeing a big tick for the Liberal Democrats. So in the UK, the Supreme Court ruling in 2025, it said that sex meant biological sex. This decision is reshaping guidances and political arguments across sections. However, the Liberal Democrats are now they're staying firm on keeping it as internally that trans women are women and trans men are men. Spain and other parts of Europe as what they're doing. They're actually pushing more towards self-ID. Most countries, a lot of European countries, are actually going more advancing into self-ID, opposite from what we're doing. They're actually making it easier to get recognition as a trans person, which tends to align politically party process with Lib Gender. So yeah, basically what we're seeing in like Spain and other countries, they're making it easier to officially live as the gender you identify as. However, we've got Hungary and Poland. These governments have leaned into biological sex definitions and gender identity rhetoric, illustrating the opposite policies, direction, and the political use of the issue. So yeah, so we're saying Hungary and Poland are kind of really going the same way, I guess, as the UK in that way. However, Canada and New Zealand, both countries have seen open trans legislation and maintaining broad, inclusive practices. There is no mainstream push to bar trans women and internal women's quotas. So basically, in Canada and New Zealand, they're more open. They accept trans people exist. They're accepting trans people into positions, which is really what we wish we were getting in England, but we're not. So kind of like you've got Canada and New Zealand, kind of like shining lights really for trans rights. So I've got a little bit more here. So where do the Lib Dems stand on trans rights? So what do the Lib Dems think then? They just keep the self-ID for women's places quotas, so they reject the biological sex amendment at the conference. In public policies, their program frames trans inclusion as trans rights questions. They ban let me just make sure that's okay. So they don't want they basically in a nutshell, they are supporting Ed Davis consistently refers to he says that biological sex talking points. He won't do that. What's saying the party abides by the law. So he says that the party does abide by the law, but the Liberal Democrats will accept trans people. So trans women are women and trans men are men. There you go. So I think out of all the parties that I've looked at, I feel like the Liberal Democrats now, I would say Reform. I've looked at 3 different parties in the UK, and this is just really on LGBTQ and trans rights. But I would put, so far, the 3 parties that I've looked at, put Reform at the bottom. They're not here for trans people or LGBTQ plus. Then I would say you've got your party. I would put your party before, even though they are a bit mixed on it. But I would say a little bit more, because obviously Jeremy Corbyn and was it Zara Sultana? They are supportive of trans people, but then definitely Liberal Democrats, not just at the top of them, a lot further up. So yeah, but feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about this. If you agree what I said. I mean, of course, all parties have other policies as well, and when it comes to voting and government, we have to look at all the policies as well. You can't just look at trans rights and stuff. But as a trans person, I'm going to look at that. And right now, I'm looking at Liberal Democrats saying, okay, this looks better.